Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you've had a good break and definitely lots of cake was being consumed. We have more cake for you in a bit, so I'm conscious I don't want to get in the way of this. But we do have some really exciting parts. Hopefully you're all having a useful day, a positive day, a learning day. I think this is one of the best events to be part of, as much as we only have it every 2 years. It's always such a welcoming environment, and I say that as a host, but I'm conscious that we have delegates here who are always open to conversation, sharing their ideas and wanting to learn about the research, interrogate it, learn from it, share their insights, and that's one of my favourite things of part of this role, is being here and being able to listen and observe and see this happening quite organically. So thank you for all being such active participants throughout the day. I know some of it's quite tough. There's some difficult topics being discussed, but I really value the way that everybody has been open to making this such a positive experience, and that we can go forward and change things. Here's the latest of the graphics. So it's all starting to look like nearly the finished article, which is really exciting. I have the great opportunity here of being able to talk about the research part of what we do. And as Rupinder said earlier, and Lizzie, when talking about how MMI was set up, the research part is a vital activity in terms of MMI and RCVS. Since 2019, we have funded over £150,000 worth of research. Some of the topics that were listed on the screen earlier, everything from farm vets to neurodivergence, they might be expected. You might have thought, oh yes, that is a question that I've always had. Some of the topics there or today might have been a bit unexpected, but I think that's the wonderful part of all of the jigsaw puzzle coming together and starting to see all the different threads. So it gives us the opportunity to explore these real-world issues. It's very organic. It's coming from the community in which this research will then live and go forward. It furthers the evidence base, and hopefully from today we will see people going on and making change, just as we do at other events where mental health, well-being, and looking at how people can thrive in their roles start to take shape. Funding this research is an opportunity to reflect the community's needs, and we're very proud of the way in which the researchers do engage with the community. You will have seen here today, when the methodologies were being looked at, that there is a significant chance for people to come and share their lived experience, and that is something that is an element of this that is always fascinating to us to be able to read, and when researchers update us and share where things are at with their projects and how many people have participated, there is always this sense of joy that comes through from the researchers that people have wanted to share this story, even though it has been very tough. So for those people who have contributed in that way, please know that is hugely valued, as hopefully you've seen from our speakers and poster presenters here today. Each year there are new themes, there's new threads, and those will help to widen the conversation, the awareness, and overall participation rates in where we're going. We've moved to a new format of grants. So as Lizzie mentioned earlier, we started out with the Sarah Brown grants in memory of Sarah, and we've now moved to the Discovery and Impact grants. So that's splitting it into one £15,000 grant and one £5,000 grant. And this not only gives us the opportunity to bring more projects to life and the chance to see, but it also means that if there is something that's perhaps a smaller nascent idea, if it's something where there's an existing project and there's a desire to look at implementation, look at knowledge transfer and testing these ideas, then it's a way in which that we can do that. So hopefully this new phase of grant activity is something that we'll start to see even more growth happening. And for the fact that we have so many people here today, some of you might be applying next time round, then hopefully this will inspire you to think about how you might be part of this, or if you're already working on something that you might choose to do more. For our whole team, the learning that we take away from each application is not insignificant, and we are seeing more applications come through, and sadly we can't fund all of them, but we go through all of them in a huge amount of detail to see what can we take away from this, and how can we have greater understanding of some of the challenges that are being put forward in these papers. So even that process is still a useful part of our education and how we can develop and go forward. The reviews take a long time for the applications. It's not a small endeavour. There is a rubric that sits behind us. There's a lot of process that's involved. And for those of you who have been part of that application process, hopefully you'll have seen how that is being delivered and being administered. And I have to say a big thank you to all of the people who volunteer to be part of this review process, because they do so very kindly with their time, and they are always very willing to look at things in detail, to question, to observe, and to make sure that good decisions are made. But I think somebody sort of mentioned this earlier, I think it might have been Jackie and Faye, talking about the positive relationship that has been built up. And it's something that I'm really proud of to say from the MMI team, that is something that we try to do. We try to build good relationships with everybody that we work with. But I think making this research process a positive experience so that we can welcome you all here today, that we can continue to share this, is something that is a really positive element and outcome from this. And I want to say thank you to the team for making sure that that environment does appear, because it doesn't appear out of nowhere. There's a lot of effort that goes in behind it. So, moving back to the bit that we're all here for, we have the symposium. We are sharing our insights. We try to make sure that the evidence is disseminated at different opportunities. Some of it isn't always badged in that way, because we're trying to make it more accessible. But we do look at the different channels, the different mechanisms that we can use, because this information is so important, and it's a great amount of time that people have invested in this. So do look out for the research webinars and coming to see us at events, and just engaging with it as you have been today. So we have our 2025 grant recipients. Unfortunately, neither Eleanor or Kevin can be here today, but we are hugely delighted to announce that the £15,000 impact grant is going on the subject of organisational interventions to support wellbeing in veterinary workplaces. And this is with Professor Eleanor O'Connor at the University of Manchester and Dr. Kevin Toe at Birkbeck University of London. So as much as they aren't here, I would like us to all give them a round of applause virtually. They will see this on the screen, so well done. And as I mentioned earlier, this looking at the intervention part is something that is being developed. So it's great to see people looking at not just the evidence creation on the theory side, but moving it forward. So we will now move on to our £5,000 discovery grant. And I'm delighted that the recipients are here. So I would like to extend a huge congratulations to Dr. Heather Imrie, Dr. Lauren Cook, Dr. Gregory Steele, and Nicola Jane Johnson from Nottingham Trent University. Their piece of research will be on evaluating the implementation of reasonable adjustments in addressing mental health and neurodivergence for student veterinary nurses during clinical placements. It's a wonderful thing to see student veterinary nurses being looked at in this way. We know that there is a lack of research in this area, and it's something that as MMI we are very focused on making sure that lesser heard voices are coming through, and this is starting to build. So I would love to welcome you up on stage, and Greg, I think you're going to say a few words.
Hello, we are the team from NTU. Thank you so much. We didn't expect this. I think we came into this very humble, and I think we're going to stay very humble. We are incredibly grateful to receive this grant. We're really grateful to the support we've already had from the MMI team and from the RCVS and from Nottingham Trent University as well. We're really grateful to have shared this fantastic day with you all. We're really inspired, I think, genuinely really inspired by the people and the hard work that we've seen today. None of us have ever been to an MMI symposium before, so this has been an incredibly enlightening and eye-opening experience. And we hopefully are going to bring something different to the table, try and fill in a gap somewhere. And we're really excited to make our own contribution to this essential research. So thank you very much, and we hope we can deliver something amazing like so many of you have presented today. Thank you very much.
Quick photo.
So, for those of you who are interested, there is information here, but we will be publishing the application process for 2026 later on this year. If you've got any questions or queries, come and speak to the team or email us at a later date once you have something that you want to talk about. I'm now going to hand over to Lizzie, who's going to come back and share some more learnings with us.
I'll try not to break it this time. So only me and a fistful of scribbled notes stands between you and the next most exciting thing. So it's been a real privilege, hasn't it, to listen to the fabulous research and hard work that's been going on. I remember when we did our first symposium back in 2017, I think it was, we struggled a little bit to find enough veterinary-related mental health research to fill the programme. This time we were oversubscribed. And that just goes to show that the amount of interest that there has been and the amount of excellent work that's happening. I'm not a researcher, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a veterinary surgeon, I'm an English graduate. Shh. So sometimes data leaves me a bit cold. I shouldn't say that, should I? I'm going to get lamped on the way out. But what I really appreciated about our speakers was how they managed to bring alive the data, the methodology, with stories, with real insight into people's behaviour, their identities, their beliefs, which I think is so important, because at the end of the day, I think data can only take you so far, but we need to wrap that around the human element in order to actually make a change happen. So bringing those two things together was really important. So I've got a slight challenge now in that there was a beautiful diagram earlier, picture, with a summary of everything that's happened, and that was kind of the job that I was given to do, and they did it better. It's always a bit tricky to follow something. So I'm just going to do a quick one-liner takeaway from each of our speakers, if you bear with me. So firstly, we had Jackie and Faye looking at mental health education in veterinary nursing. And I think the thing that really struck me about that was the importance of the relationship between the student and the staff member. And I think it was mentioned the fact that there was some importance of continuity in that relationship. And it really struck me that continuity of care is something we talk about all the time in the vet-client-patient relationship. So it shouldn't be a surprise that that's really important from a well-being and welfare perspective in terms of other relationships that we have, whether that's student and teacher or elsewhere. So I thought that was something that might resonate with the wider veterinary community. We then had Jennifer and Olivia talking about alcohol use. And again, somebody mentioned it as part of the questions, but the thing that really struck me was this idea that in a community perhaps where there are higher levels of alcohol use in a social way, there's greater stigma attached. And it's that business, I think, is that we can all handle it, why can't you? Why are you having a problem with this when everybody else is managing to make alcohol quite an integral part of their life? It struck me, I was mentioned at our council meeting actually recently, I had a colleague join the college who'd been previously working in human medicine. And she went to a veterinary conference and she said there's two main things that came out to her from that conference. One was the sheer amount of alcohol that was drunk and how soon the happy hour started and how liberal it was. The second one, which is irrelevant but quite funny, was the sheer number of gilets that were being worn by people, which she hadn't experienced in the human medical sector. Not so important for mental health. But what I really liked about that one was that there was talk about healthier coping strategies, and I think that's really, really important. What we need to do is flood with positivity, with good role modelling, with what else you can do, what you could do instead. We then had Naomi talking about veterinary nursing and student veterinary nursing and mental health. I think there was some really sobering statistics there about suicide and self-harm, and it reminded us, I think, why we're all in the room and why this is such an important topic. But the thing that really struck me of her presentation was around identity and how important that is, and it comes back to this issue of belief and storytelling. And I remember when we first started Mind Matters and being told by somebody who felt that they'd always wanted to be a vet. The whole family supported them, they became a veterinary surgeon, and then they realised it just wasn't for them, as many people find with their careers. But they were so embedded to the idea of being a vet that the actual phrase that they used was that I would rather not be than not be a vet, which is something, isn't it? I don't know how many other professions or jobs there are. I love my job, but if I have to give it up, I have to give it up. I'll do something else, but it is very different for certain groups, veterinary surgeons and veterinary nurses being one. We then had Zoe talking to us about infertility and baby loss, and this one really resonated for me personally because I'm infertile, and the message around in the animal, large animal, infertile animals are sent down the lane, I remember really distinctly doing the lambing with my dad just after my third and final IVF failed, and he was clipping the ears of sheep that had been barren to send them to the slaughterhouse, and that really hurts. And so I really appreciated that analogy, and there are others throughout the day, but that one really stuck with me. I think it's really important, and the main thing that I think was really affirming about that presentation was that there was poor support, but that can be changed. We can't change biology, we can't change people's fertility, we can't do all of those things, but we can change the way in which we treat them in the workplace, men and women. We can change the way in which they're supported, and some of those things, those changes are relatively easy to make, so we need to do them, and Zoe had some very clear actions in her presentation, which I welcomed. We then had James talking about suicide, and I think bringing us the lived experience behind that data, the lived experience behind those 670 people, I think was really important. And the other one that really struck me from James's presentation, this is something we hear all the time. You know, people often say, well, there's no point trying to prevent suicide. If somebody's going to do it, they're going to do it. Actually, that is not the case. And the phrase that, and forgive me if I'm getting the words wrong here, but when lethal methods were less available, people were more likely to survive. So all of the off-ramps that you can provide are really, really important. And I know you've all been looking around the exhibition and the stands and the Youth Are Safe project that Stuart Reid and colleagues have been looking at is really trying to address that issue of reducing accessibility of means. We then had Angela on burnout, and I recognise many of those things in myself, and I'm sure some of you do as well. But the phrase that struck me there was, you know, this research is not telling us stuff we don't already know, so why haven't we done anything about it? And so thank you to Angela for 39 solutions. I shall be looking at those in detail because I think burnout's applicable in all workplaces, not just in the veterinary clinical environment. Nearly finished. We're on to Kirsty. Kirsty's work, genuinely very inspiring. But again, a key thing for me was this idea of in order to support people better, you need to have the time to do it. In an educational environment, that's really, really tricky. There was a news story just this morning that there was 12,000 jobs lost in the UK university sector in the last 12 months. The work probably hasn't gone away, right? It's being done by somebody else. It's been done with less time and less money, and that is a real genuine challenge. So even people who know they want to help and they know that support is needed, and I think there was a lot of data to suggest that. And it's not just time, it's also money. So if in the clinical non-educational environment, when we're talking about EMS or people out in practice, additional cost is brought in if more time is spent on doing things. And we know from the Competition and Markets Authority review at the moment that that's all about making things as cheap as possible for the public. We can't win in all of these situations, so it can be really challenging to do that. But I think that the hidden gem in all of Kirsty's work for me was nobody's talking about the benefits of having neurodiverse people. So we're thinking about the costs of training them more. We're thinking about the time it takes. Well, let's focus also, it'd be really good, perhaps a follow-up study looking at the benefits and what that can bring. And then finally, we heard from Emma on the shorts rounds. And this was really exciting for me to hear because obviously this was one of the projects that we funded back in the day. The thing that really struck me from Emma's presentation was the power of silence. Just that idea of having space for people to tell stories, listen to stories, time to reflect. And again, in the context that I was just mentioning about people losing their jobs and there being more work for a smaller number of people and more of a push for people to do things quicker and quicker and quicker, it's really important to have that power of silence. So I really felt that was important. And also Emma left us with 3 benefits of Schwarzmann's, which I think are benefits of that program, but also something that I would, as I listen to them, it would be nice to think that that's of this space of Mind Matters generally, which was that they enable compassion, empower vulnerability, and enhance organisational insight. I think that was really, really powerful. So as I say, Emma's project was one that we had supported back in the day. There were others on the stage today, and we've just seen, and congratulations to you, the new awards winners, the new grant holders, and I really look forward to hearing what exciting things you're going to do in our 2027 symposium and what you've all achieved. So, what did you all want? When I put that slide up this morning, some of the words that leapt out there were about learning, about collaboration, about wanting resources, and hope. And hope's a really important one. You're all here, which brings me great hope. And we've heard some excellent research which will inform future initiatives, which is also very, very hopeful. So the next question is, what will you do next? Have a Slido for this. So if you want to get out your phones one last time and add in, after today's symposium, what are you going to do next? hoping the words are going to come up, or do I need to press a thing? I'm going to press a button. It might blow things up. I don't know. Oh, look at that. So I'm going to share findings with others, look into further studies. Bosses. I suspect that's the end of a sentence that started with something else. Funding, time, team, opportunity. Stay hopeful. Excellent. Reflect, listen, read more papers. Spread the word. Great. Excellent. Well, there's lots of things there, and I'm not going to hold you all to it in detail, obviously, although as a regulator I could if I wanted to. But I would like you to genuinely think on the way home about how you're going to make that happen. Right, so, final slide with the resources, and I'll leave that up just as I finish. So that's what you're going to do next. What we're actually going to do right next is to have some cake to celebrate our first 10 years. And I was just thinking as I was listening to the presentation about over-reliance on alcohol, I think perhaps this particular event has been a little bit over-reliant on cake. This is our third cake opportunity of the day, but as a proud teetotaler and a big cakeaholic, then I think that's probably my fault. I'm really proud that you're all here to celebrate our first decade, and I'm really excited to find out what the next 10 years will hold. I feel that Mind Matters is in incredibly safe hands with Angharad, Rupinder, Sam, and Zara as our new chair. I've made sure it's in our strategic plan for the next 5 years, so that's definitely there, and Council have approved that plan. And I'm hoping that it will continue with its success. So thank you. That will only happen with all of your support, whether you are established Mind Matters supporters or it was your first event today. You're an integral part of the journey now. Huge thanks to all of our presenters, our chairs, our poster people, our exhibitors, the staff team that made all of this happen. Really, really grateful to all of you for your help. So finally, has your curiosity been sated? A little bit. Are you still smiling? Yes. Are you exhausted and in need of refreshment? Yes. So as they say on the railway lines, see it, say it, sorted. Cake will be through there in a moment. When you get to it, happy journeys home. Please stay safe. And thank you, especially when I'm talking about journeys home, to our overseas visitors, to Jen, who's come all the way from the States, to Vibeke, who's actually already left to go back to Belgium, and to our colleague from Australia, who I can't see, but she was here a minute ago. There she is. Thank you all so much for coming so far, and safe journeys home.